Welcome to Truth Recon. I'm Agent D. Baker, former narcotics detective, SWAT team member, and U.S. Navy combat veteran. With years of real world experience in high stakes environments, I've seen firsthand the dangers that lurk both in our communities and now increasingly online. Before this show begins, understand this. What you are about to hear may be disturbing to some audiences. This podcast contains explicit language, dark themes, and real conversations that are not suitable for children and may be triggering for some individuals. If you choose to continue, do so knowing this content is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised. What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good Friday night. Had a good week, and hopefully everyone has a good weekend and big, exciting weekend planned. Have a not surprising, a lot to talk about tonight. I don't have a specific case or subject for tonight, so I'll let y'all lead that way. But definitely a lot of interesting things going on. One case we'll probably talk a little bit about, but I don't want to get in too much detail. I've already done a full podcast on it, but I'm not putting it out yet for a specific reason. But we may discuss it just a little bit. And obviously, we will be discussing the ramp and Karen Wheaton and that stuff. And there's so much. What else? If you did not have a chance earlier today, I put out a very short video on the Barry Moore thing with his military service, which I think we discussed that Wednesday night if you were on Wednesday night. But I did put out a short video about that. So hopefully that gets out. And yes, the most exciting news, literally the best news that I've had since I started doing this, is the Aaron Spencer case and the judge finally dismissing all charges against him. And that nightmare is over for he and his family. And I was legit when that got sent to me. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday morning, yesterday around noon, I think. The most excited I've been about anything in a while. Like, it was truly legit that exciting. And I can't imagine the relief for he and his family and the excitement for them. I'm sure is very emotional. I mean, they have been living through when you really sit back and think about the full, complete nightmare that they have been living through for over 2 years now, it's unbelievable. But I know they are glad that part is finally over. He is running for sheriff, and he already won the primary. And from what I'm hearing from big sources in Lonoke County, Arkansas, he's going to win the general too. I think he's definitely the favorite by far. So that's awesome. And I can't wait to see that all play out. It's one hell of a movie. I know we've said that before about that case, but that is one hell of a movie that guy turned what he was going through into a positive and ran for sheriff and won. And it's just unbelievable. It's an unbelievable story. But we also can't forget what his family is going through, the torture they've gone through, and especially his daughter that unfortunately had to go through things that she will have to deal with for the rest of her life. Oh yeah, there's Annie from Arkansas. Yeah, that judge did the right thing. Heard one of the deputies was already fired. It sounds like a lot need to be fired. And I'm telling you, legit a movie. When you think about just months ago, The judge that was over that case was, my God, one of the most corrupt we've seen. It was unbelievable, the things that was going on in that courtroom, and that the motion she was denying and the one she was granting, none of it made any sense. It was crazy. The Supreme Court overturned like 4 or 5 of her motions in 2 weeks. And finally, whatever the powers that be in Arkansas that had to step in and take her off that case, they did. And I knew, I had a really good feeling anyway. I was being very optimistic about it. As I've said a bunch of times, I felt that it was going to eventually just be dismissed once a normal judge got on the case, and that's exactly what happened. And so, but it's crazy. I mean, you could do a whole documentary on just the district attorney there, Chuck Graham. You could do an entire documentary on that judge. And then, obviously, on the incident that Aaron himself was involved in. And then you put all 3 of those things together, it's crazy. And the most frustrating video that I possibly have ever freaking seen in my life is that district attorney, Chuck Graham, when he did the media interview just months ago, where he said, I mean, we can't have people just going around killing people, acting like that's what Aaron Spencer did. And if you didn't watch my short video I put out, or probably, well, I mean, any of my podcasts I've done on the Aaron Spencer case, remember, the second he was charged, Chuck Graham, that district attorney, filed for a gag order. And, of course, that judge approved it. And it's obvious why he did that, because he knew 100% that if the details of that case got out to the public, there was going to be outrage, because he knew how crazy it was. And that's why he fought so hard to have that gag order. And then he gets the gag order granted. And then 6 months later, Aaron's defense team, after filing numerous motions on the case to get the gag order pulled, it goes all the way to the Arkansas State Supreme Court. And they said, yeah, no gag order here. This is crazy. Like, there's no need in a gag order. And they made them drop the gag order. And less than a week later, Chuck Graham filed for another gag order on the case, after the one had just been shot down by the state Supreme Court. I mean, he was doing everything he possibly could, because he knew if these details got out, there was going to be outrage. Thank God Aaron didn't stop fighting. His family didn't stop fighting. His defense team did not stop fighting, because if that gag order would have stayed in place, there's no doubt in my mind he would be sitting in prison right now for a long time. Think about that. That one thing was what was standing between him and his freedom. And Chuck Graham knew that. And there's no doubt in my mind, if that would have stayed, the first trial would have went, and he would have been railroaded straight to prison. And instead, since that information was able to become public, which is literally our constitutional right to have a public trial, and look why. We see why that's so important. Because in this case, he would have been railroaded into prison if that information hadn't have been able to go public. Because if they had been able to keep all that in-house, he would have gone to prison. Instead, he's going to be the next sheriff. He's going to be able to fix the corruption there. And again, I can't wait. I can't wait to see it play out. I mean, I can't wait. What is a gag order? A gag order is, in certain cases, a judge can order both defense and prosecution to not be allowed to talk about the case at all to anyone outside of the court. So Aaron Spencer wouldn't have been allowed to tell anybody what was going on, and his family wouldn't have been allowed to. I mean, nobody would have been allowed to. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Sienna. A judicial hush. So it's and those are rare. And in fact, when we dug into investigating Chuck Graham, I discovered that was the first gag order he had even asked for in over 15 years. Because I thought maybe this is something that he does a lot. I was trying to give him the benefit of a doubt. And no, it was the first one he had even asked for in over 15 years. So it wasn't coming for him either. But that is, if you ever needed proof about why it's so important to go by the Constitution, to have a open public trial, that is your right. That if you're accused of a crime, you have the right to have an open public trial. And this is just a prime example of why that's so important. And it's very scary that any one part of the judicial system, such as that prosecutor, is against that. Because it makes you wonder, what else are they against in reference to the Constitution? Probably a lot more. They would probably work a lot better in Russia. No, the gag order was dropped back a year ago because the Arkansas State Supreme Court dropped it. Because that's the reason the information got out about the case, and the reason we were able to talk about it and spread awareness about it. But that whole case has been very personal to me. Number one, he's a combat veteran. He fought for our country, and for him to have been treated the way he was is just wrong on so many levels. But I took it personal, number one, as a combat vet as well. Number two, when I first started, the very first story I covered was the Stapletons. Then in the same week, I did a video on Nick Smith with Walker County and Aaron Spencer. And I don't even remember how I found out about it. I saw it and I was outraged, like, whoa, I've got to make a video on this. And I had no followers then. But between those first three videos I put out, I think the Aaron Spencer one got the most views. They all went viral. I mean, for me anyway. But I think the Aaron Spencer one, I'd have to go back and look. But I think it was the most successful one as far as views and gaining me followers within 2 days. So it really helped kick this off as well. And then I don't even know how many podcasts and all I've made about the Aaron Spencer now, but it's been a bunch. And it's one of the only cases that I've every single time I would talk about it, the first time anybody ever heard about it, they would say, there's no way this is true. And that's what I thought at the beginning. I was like, this guy and his family spinning this story because there's no way that's what happened. Like, there's got to be a lot more to it. And because I spoke with a very, very close family member of his that next day. Like, I saw the story. Again, I don't remember how. And I don't even remember how I was able to track her down, but I tracked her down on one of the platforms, Messenger. She messaged me right back. And I heard the things she had to say, and then I was really fired up. But it was crazy. I watched the court hearing on the gag order. It was ridiculous. And again, we're talking about Arkansas. If it's wrong, no matter what state you're in, obviously, it would be completely wrong and ridiculous and unbelievable. But if it was in a Democrat state, I would say, well, I'm not that surprised. Like, if it was in New York, California, any of those places, I would be like, it sucks. We got to fix this, but I'm not surprised. Arkansas, of all places, none of it made sense. I mean, Arkansas is one of those states, just like the state I live in, Alabama, where we're allowed to protect ourselves and our families. And so it just didn't make sense until I dug into it and realized what really was going on. I started following you when you were talking about August Borden. Yeah, that was a big one too. It still doesn't feel right that I've not been doing this not even a year yet. Like, it feels like I've been doing it 5 years now. But I put out my very first video July the 28th of last year. So we're still not even a full year into this, and so much has happened. I mean, the amount of the crazy stories that's happened, which I'm sure it's always like that. It's just now that's what I do. So I'm paying very close attention to all this stuff, and it just, wow, it's overwhelming at times. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go do that, Agent D Baker. And you can either go to YouTube, type that in and find me, or you can go to my website, agentdbaker.com, and click on the YouTube link there. It'll take you straight to my channel. But we're trying to build that up. And then also, don't forget, every Wednesday night now, the live will be only on YouTube. So Wednesday night lives will not be on Facebook. They will not be on TikTok, only on YouTube. And we had our first one this past Wednesday night. It went really good. Heard a lot of good positive feedback from it. We had a pretty good crowd. So I think that's going to work out well. But it is really helpful to us if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Kind of reminded me of the movie Walking Tall. Yeah, a lot of people have referenced that to the Aaron Spencer case. I'm so upset about the unaliving of my friend Steven that happened in Selma. So I saw that. Does anyone know any details on that? Because I haven't seen any actual details. They also tried to plant rugs in the backseat of the patrol car to pin on Aaron, but he saw it and refused to get in the car. Is that true? I've not heard that. That does not surprise me at all, knowing what I know now. Yes, it did come out recently that the walking tall guy actually took his wife out. And I've heard the full details and story on that. I'm still not 100% sure they got it right. I think there's a lot of experts that feel the same way I do. Plus, it didn't make sense as to the timing and everything with that. Now, I'm not saying he didn't do it, but it was not a slam dunk. It's easy to accuse someone and declare somebody did something after they've died because they know it's not going to have to go to trial or anything. So when you had 30 years while he was alive to put him on trial for that, and he literally was not even a suspect during that time, and then after he dies, then you up and declare he was the one responsible, that's sketchy. I'm not saying they got it wrong. It's very sketchy, and it's definitely not a slam dunk. Summerton PD is not releasing details to the public, but I've spoken with the family. Well, and that's understandable, and I figured that may be how it was. So we'll probably have to wait till that case gets further along and stuff. But yeah, I don't know any details, but it's very sad. I heard he got into an altercation at Summerton Walmart. They followed him across the street and shot him. That's crazy. Crazy. Now, a very sad situation. I've seen a bunch of people post about the guy, and it looks like he was a great person and just a completely innocent life lost over nonsense. And it goes back to what I talk about all the time. You gotta protect yourself. You have to know how to protect yourself. You have to train to protect yourself because you never know in this crazy world. You never know. And the more you're prepared, the better off you'll be. Now, you could be the most prepared in the world and it still happen. Don't get me wrong. But you want that percentage to be on your side, not the opposite. He was one of my followers. He's participated in the live before. You know what, Christy? I thought that. Because when I saw the name, it stuck out to me. And I figured, and I went to his page and I saw he's following me. I figured that I had seen him on the lives before. It's very sad. He was an awesome guy. Yeah, I've seen tons of people posting about how great of a guy he was. I really hate that. Oh, Melissa went to school with him, said he was a precious guy. Yeah, it's just again, you have to be prepared. You never know. They didn't arrest the guy that did it. I don't want to a lot of hearsay going around about it since this just happened, and I don't want anything getting spread online that may be wrong, that would hurt the case or disrupt it or anything in the investigation, anything like that. So I don't want to really discuss it in respect for Stephen and his family and friends until we know a lot more things. I think that's the best thing for us to do right now. But we will, when all the details come out and we're able to talk about it, we will. And if anything, and I'm not saying it was, but if anything shady was done on the law enforcement's part, we will obviously call them out and do what we do. We were talking about a case in Walker County where a man he was one of our followers, was on the lives before, to a great guy. Unfortunately, his life was taken from him just yesterday or day before yesterday. Well, yeah, Summerton's Walker County, isn't it? Or is it Lamar County? Some of those I get mixed up between if they're in Lamar County or Walker County. Okay, yeah, it is Walker County. I thought it was, but then after I said that a few times, I wanted to be sure. I like Laura's name. This is Laura, mom of hoodlums. Yeah, sorry. I probably confused some people there. We were jumping back and forth talking about Aaron Spencer case, and then the Stevens case was brought up, and I was jumping back and forth and wasn't being clear what we were talking about. I apologize. Yeah, Aaron Spencer. I didn't know about the rugs in the car, but again, that does not surprise me at all. I'm telling y'all, it's a close race as far as corruption within local government. It's a very close race between Walker County, Alabama, and Lonoke County, Arkansas. And that's not a race that anybody wants to be involved in. But that's not an exaggeration either. Lonoke County is just as bad, very close to just as bad as Walker County as far as local government corruption. Because I mean, you got the judge, the DA, the sheriff, some deputies. I mean, it's and remember, I said I was never going to say his name again, so I'm not going to say the pedo's name that Aaron took out, thankfully. He was a former police chief. He was a retired police officer and former police chief. So don't forget that. And as we've said, as far as the child predators go, it doesn't discriminate. Unfortunately, you will find child predators in every career. Doctors, lawyers, nurses, judges, law enforcement. The local the task force here in Tuscaloosa County just arrested a local realtor for a bunch of CSAM. I didn't know the guy. I've never heard of him, but normal looking guy as always. It kills me when I see people say, he didn't look like somebody that would do that. What the fuck? Excuse my language. What does somebody look like that to do that? That's the whole point. That's what sucks about it. You can't. There is no certain look. There's not. That's why we have to teach our children things about this. As sad as that is, and as bad as that sucks, and I understand that we shouldn't have to. I get that, but that is exactly why we have to teach them from the time they're born about what to do, what not to do, and as I've said a bunch of times, the most important thing of all of the things we go over as far as protecting your child from those things is making sure that your child feels 100% with being fully open with you about anything. That is the most important. That way, if something happens or somebody tries something, whatever, they will always come straight to you and tell you so you can fix it. And then it's crazy that I have to say this, but it happens a lot. As parents, we got to stop worrying about our fucking reputations and being embarrassed. And if somebody does something to our child, we turn them in so they don't get more victims. I don't care if it was your brother, your uncle, grandpa, whoever. We don't sweep that under a rug because we don't want the entire family being embarrassed. Happens all the time. And then that person goes on and has numerous more victims. Well, and that's the problem, Melissa. That's where that whole culture comes from. Melissa said, sadly, victims came forward at the ramp and no one believed them for several years. We've got to change that whole culture. And again, that's another reason why it's so important to teach our kids simple things like it's called I'm not going to say it because TikTok will kick us off, but our private parts, we say the real name. We don't teach our 2-year-old that it's called a TT. No, that's not what it's called. You teach them the real thing. The reason that's so important is because that will help cut down this mess of, well, they probably just don't know what they're talking about. They're probably confused about what happened. Plus, it makes your child a harder target. Because as I've said, if a child predator tries to touch them or does touch them there and they turn around and they say, don't touch my insert whatever word, and they use the real word, I almost guarantee you that predator is going to move on to another victim because they're going to be like, whoa, they know what they're talking about. I'm not going to do this. In my area, it's mostly the women teachers or the pervs. I mean, that's happening a lot. It's still, I mean, obviously, males are still the number one perpetrator of that, but I don't think it's happening any more today than it was happening 30 years ago with female teachers. I think 30 years ago, 20 years ago, hell, probably 15 years ago, when a female teacher was caught doing it, they were just told to stop. It's not something that just started. And that was part of a whole culture that we've had to shift, and thankfully it's shifting to the better. And that's one reason there's always been tons of child predators. We need to understand that. I know people will say, well, it wasn't like that in the 70s. Yes, it was. It was probably worse. It's just in the 70s, nobody reported that. But we have slowly changed that culture for people to realize, okay, this is a big problem and there's no excuse for it. It's not a mistake somebody made. I saw that today on a post. Somebody was posting about, I think, the female teacher in Jefferson County, or I don't know if she was a teacher, but she was a school employee. And no, that wasn't it. It was another one. Anyway, somebody probably said it about that one too. It was like, have y'all ever thought about everybody makes mistakes? And this guy, it was probably a big mistake he made, and that was a long time ago, and he's changed. No, it's not a mistake. When an adult messes with a child, the only adult that's going to make that mistake is a child predator. That is literally not, I can't say the thing I compare it to on here because we'll sure get kicked off, but the way I've put that in real life to people, I think it really makes them think and go, oh, I see what you're saying. Or what, I can say it clean, I guess, in some ways. Trigger warning, I'm about to talk about something that's very horrible, but it does happen. So there's your warning. Saying that that's a mistake they made would be like me telling you, or would be like you making a mistake one day and accidentally doing those acts with your dog. Now think about that. Is that something you would ever do? Like, is that a mistake you would ever make? Of course not. But that's equivalent to you saying a grown adult made a mistake by messing with a child. It's just as crazy. Now, again, unfortunately, that happens too. But that really clicks in a lot of people's heads when they think about it like that. We're like, okay, I see what you're saying. That's how ignorant you sound when you're saying they probably made a mistake. No, it's not a mistake. Because, yes, we all make mistakes every day. We're human. Big difference in a mistake and what these people are doing. And for someone to say they've changed, well, you're showing your ignorance because, again, it's been proven. There is no, like, the research is there. been done over and over again and always goes the same, there is literally no way at this point to rehabilitate those people. There's no way. So, no, they don't change. Watch the Samuel Bateman documentary. Yeah, that documentary is crazy. If you have not watched the Samuel Bateman, it's on, is it Netflix? But you need to watch that because it will really, the whole time I was watching that, I kept thinking about the ramp. Now, they're different, obviously, in certain ways, but then in certain ways they're not. And it'll really kind of open your eyes to some of the stuff we're talking about with the ramp as well, if you watch that. Who's trolling? See, I don't see it's weird that I don't see those comments. Well, Drew said they use the dark web to market their CP. They know it's wrong. Unfortunately, I mean, that's true what you're saying. That is definitely one way they do it, but that's not the most common way they do it. The most common way is on Roblox, a child's game, Discord, Snapchat. Those are the most common ways they do. They don't have to go to the dark web. Yeah, the real Slink. We discussed that in a very little earlier, but we're going to wait till more details come out. So we don't want to say something that may hinder the investigation or anything. But at some point, we will be going deep into what happened there. Oh, awesome, Melody. So there is an actual legal filing on that. Wow, that's crazy. NC lawyer had SA dog caught on camera, discussed. Yeah, I mean, it happens. When I went through police academy in Alabama in 2007, part of the academy, one of the days they made us watch a video of people doing that with animals. It was the most horrible thing I'd ever seen in my life, but that's the reason they do it. They want you to understand some of the things you're going to be seeing and dealing with in law enforcement, and that shock value is wow. And they make you sit there and watch it. I mean, we had to, as a class, sat there and watched it, and it was horrible. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that, obviously, and hope I never have to again. It was crazy. But yeah, I saw the stuff about the lawyer. You never know. It's a crazy world. Again, that's why we don't trust our children with anyone, nor our pets. But there's so this one case that again we'll discuss a little bit, but there's a specific reason why I'm waiting to just all out discuss it and put it out. It will be very soon. Let me pull. But some of the stuff we're talking about is reminding me. There's some good examples. Yeah, so we're going to talk about this a little bit, and I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say the name. Some of you may know, but as of right now, I'm going to talk about some of the messages. But this case is a prime example of grooming. I mean, textbook grooming. And actually, let me check something very quickly. All right. So these are things, if you ever hear a grown man say in reference to their relationship conversations with a child, with a teenager, this is textbook. I swear nothing ever happened. Just too close of a friendship. I was going through a rough time, and she talked to me, and we compared family issues. That's grooming 101. There is no such thing as an appropriate relationship like that between an adult and a child. Unless it's literally your child, maybe a very close family member. But if it's somebody that you're not related to at all, and you're a grown man or woman, and you have this kind of relationship with a teenager, yeah, you're a child predator. That was a quote. I swear nothing ever happened. Just too close of a friendship. I was going through a rough time, and she talked to me, and we compared family issues. You don't talk about your family issues with a teenager if you're an adult. You don't, if you're having marital problems, you don't talk about those marital problems with a 16-year-old. No. You're a child predator. And the way they always try to play the victim. I'm saying the patterns here with all these people are so always trying to play the victim, always throwing up religion. I've, as a Christian, been trying and doing better the past few years. If you were to tell on me, I'm sure to be fired and would have no way to provide for my family or my kids. This is a real conversation, by the way. If you were to tell on me, I'm sure to be fired and then would have no way to provide for my family or my kids. That's playing the victim. Like it would be their fault if you wasn't able to provide for your family. Not yours, theirs. Nothing happened, I swear. And we joked a lot that we shouldn't have joked about. Yeah. When you have to say that sentence, guess what? You're a child predator. If you have to say, we joked a lot about things we shouldn't have joked about, but it was just jokes. No, it wasn't. Kelsey, please message me because I feel terrible that I didn't get back in touch with you. And I just remembered when I saw your name. Please don't hate me and please message me. Oh, I get pissed off all over again reading these messages. This is the child predator having a conversation with a victim's parent. I'm begging you, I'll meet with y'all and speak. Please, if not for me, for my family and my kids. You think this guy's worried about his family and his kids? No, he's worried about himself. But again, he's trying to put this on this victim's mother. I'm not asking you to do this for me. I'm not asking you to shove this under the rug for me. I'm asking you to do it for my kids and my family. I genuinely like to sit and speak with y'all. Anything I could do to assure you my Christian life is right compared to it was then. Yep. Throwing up religion again. Yes, I wasn't the Christian I needed to be back then. I can explain that too. This has nothing to do with you being a Christian, dude. You're a child predator. I'd sincerely like to speak with you, even in person. I have no excuses. However, y'all know my thing. If there's a but or ever or however after that, I mean, however and but same, guess what's coming? A bunch of excuses. I have no excuses. However, I'd like to talk in person and explain some things. Definitely doesn't make anything right, but hopefully you would see I'm not a monster. This is him trying to convince himself he's not a monster. Newsflash, he is a monster. The thought of me not waking up with my kids and wife every day is absolutely unbearable. Again, trying to put that, playing the victim, trying to put that blame on the victim versus them. And then here's all the list of excuses. I'll say this, during that time, we were going through marital issues, financial issues. I'm still struggling with the depression. My mom died, self-esteem shot. And this gets even freaking worse. Listen to what he says here. And a new pastor at our church that said some very hurtful things that from the first time in my Christian life, there's that Christian word again, I questioned God and life. Listen to what this grown man just said. He got his feelings hurt by a pastor, is what he said. Again, not trying to get sympathy. Yes, dude, that's exactly what you're trying to do. I know that's asking a lot, but I feel if I just open up and tell you everything I've been or was dealing with, you'll slightly understand my poor judgment at the least. Minimizing this, they're going to minimize. He has minimized this throughout this entire thread. This is the worst. Him calling what he did poor judgment. Again, it's not a mistake. It's not poor judgment. Would you be willing? This is where it gets even worse. Would you be willing to meet or talk? To be quite honest, I could use another Christian to talk to even. I mean, listen to this mess. Now he's turning this around into, I need to talk to you as a Christian. Not, I need to talk to you because if you put this out, it's going to ruin my life because of the actions I did. But I need to talk to you just as a Christian. And then here's the worst part, in my opinion. I hate myself, honestly, for allowing the flattery to go as far as it did. What's that translate into? What's he saying when he says, I hate myself, honestly, for allowing for allowing the flattery to go as far as it did. What's he saying? He's putting the blame 100% on the teenager. That's what that means. No blame on himself. Wasn't his fault. He just allowed the flattery. In other words, what he is saying is the famous, she came on to me. That's what he's saying. I'm glad you are good Christian people. I got to count how many times he uses the word Christian in all this. I am too. However, which means I'm not going to lie. I was in a dark place during these events. Just honest. He even goes to he starts rambling. I've been in church since I started dating. In 2002, got saved, August the 7th, 2002, and sometimes would hear people testify about being backslid or out of will of God and how it affected them. I never knew that feeling and wished I didn't now. So he's comparing this. Him being a child predator, he's trying to compare it to someone that's what some Christian believers believe as backslid. And then the trying to get sympathy goes even further. I have virtually no family here. What does you have no family in the state you live in have any freaking thing to do with you messing with a 16-year-old girl? Nothing. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. Now here is the prime example of this was her fault. She came on to me. I just had a lot going on. He uses the word flattery again. I just had a lot going on. The flattery was nice, I guess. It deflected from things I was dealing with, which now I'm seeing that maybe it was more on me than I even realized. So he is saying, look, this is all her fault. But now I'm saying maybe it is a little my fault. I mean, think about what he's saying. This is a grown man, a man in high authority, by the way, that had full authority over this 16-year-old. The flattery was nice. Now I'm seeing that maybe it was more on me than I even realized. So he's still not saying it's on him. He's saying maybe it was. Maybe a little bit of it was on me. Maybe it wasn't 100% her fault. Maybe it was 5% my fault, but it's her fault. By no means, please don't take this as me asking for sympathy. And then this guy's a freaking creep. Honestly, I don't know why I feel I need to tell you everything, but I do feel I need to. I've attempted twice before, and nobody will listen. Maybe y'all not having direct ties with me will offer some guidance. and I hope put in perspective who I am as a person. So he has literally flipped this, turned this over into, will you be my therapist? I just need a therapist. Will you be that? I've been trying to find somebody to talk to. Nobody will talk to me. Poor little old me. I've been asking for help. Nobody will help me. Nobody will talk to me. Will you be my therapist? Think about that. Later on in the message, sorry, we went and had like a marriage counseling. So I think he missed a phone call or something, and he said, sorry, we went and had like a marriage counseling. What is like a marriage counseling? Anybody know? These are words that need, when you're analyzing statements from people, these are the words that will stick out to you. Like this, like. What does that mean? We went and had like a marriage counseling. What does that mean? It means he didn't have marriage counseling. If he had been at marriage counseling, he would have said, we went to marriage counseling. No, he said, like a marriage counseling. What do they go have dinner, talk to each other? Probably. I mean, honestly. Anyway, there's a lot more to this. And again, I've done a full podcast on it that will be out sometime next week. But there's, like I said, one specific reason not putting it out yet, but it will be going out next week at some point. But I just wanted to prime example of grooming and then the way they all are. They want you to feel sorry for it. They're going to try to turn it over. They're going to victim blame. And this also falls into when I'm teaching detecting deception and those things. And it's very easy to do in writing. I don't know why I said that twice. But it's very easy to do in writing if you see their writing to really just truly pay attention to the words. Literally each word they're using, and things will start standing out to you. And that's a prime example of that. Like I said, if you do that and you read a sentence like, honestly, I let the flattering go too far with me, or whatever he said, and now I'm thinking that maybe it was a little more on me than I even realized. What does that mean? He's saying that she came on to me. It's her fault. And I'm still not going to say, I see now some of it was my fault. I'm going to say maybe a little bit of it was my fault. How do you analyze someone who does sign language? I mean, that would be 100% body language, which is the preferred and the best way to actually tell if somebody's being deceptive. Those will be things you can learn in my courses when I get those put out on the website soon. But I'm putting together the child predator course, and then also after that, the next course that'll come out will be a detecting deception, body language analysis, things like that for the business professionals or just everyday citizens versus specifically for law enforcement. That'll help you understand body language better, and also help you understand the body language you need to use in certain different situations, because it makes a big difference of how people look at you, how people take you in, if they trust you, if they don't. No, I've not ever done that. I've never interviewed somebody with using sign language. That's good, Natalie. Natalie said, when I was talking about the marriage counseling, she said, went to see a non-licensed pastoral counselor. Oh, that's good. And she's talking about the thing I went over last week, one live last week, with the guy that was starting the counseling business in Hamilton. That, again, it was complete BS. It was crazy what he said. Hey, thank y'all for the follows. If you're not following me or subscribing, depending on what platform you're watching me on right now, please do that. I'd really appreciate that. And then also, I do a full podcast. You can catch my full podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. So make sure y'all, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Agent D. Baker. Or you can go to my website, agentdbaker.com, and click the YouTube link there. It'll take you straight to my channel. And then also, I do 3 lives a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central. Friday nights, 9 p.m. Central. The Wednesday night lives are only on YouTube. So make sure you go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and then hit the notifications on there so you'll be notified when I go live and when I drop a new podcast. Yeah, Sienna, I promise I'm going to get in touch with you ASAP. I've been slammed and just so busy, but I will get up with you ASAP. Oh, I just saw this Kathy's comment about when I was talking about when he said the pastor hurt his feelings. Kathy said, if your pastor isn't stepping on some toes and hurting feelings, he isn't doing what he should. And that was the first thing I thought about when I read that. I said, my pastor's hurt my feelings before. And every time he has, guess why it hurt my feelings? Because he was right. I've never had a pastor hurt my feelings and then go, I can't believe he did that. I'm going to go sit in the corner and cry and feel sorry for myself about it. No, I see he's right. Maybe I need to change this. Are people with disabilities harder to read, like body language? I mean, depending on the disability, some absolutely. I mean, some you just can't to most extent. But that completely depends on the disability. Sienna said, if anyone needs their feelings hurt, I'll do it for free. Like a marriage counselor, somebody played pat a cake with him. But yes, child predators are they're a completely different breed, uh, in their mental capacities, if you will. They they always feel sorry for themselves. They they're always going to play the victim because also keep in mind they don't think what they're doing should be illegal. They think it's normal is one, but they're very most of them. I mean, the percentage of child predators that once they're caught take their own life is very high. I mean, it happens all the time. It's very common. It is very common. I've seen it happen 3 times in 1 week. One investigator that investigates the stuff had 3 different ones, child predators that they caught in 1 week, all took their life the same week. That's how common it is. It's very common. They're because they're cowards, and they know when they're finally caught, they know the gig is up, and the last place they want to go is prison because they're just straight cowards, and they don't want to face it, and they take their lives. I mean, it happens a lot. I don't know what Melissa asked is the percentage high that they were abused as a child too. I don't know those percentages in that, but I mean I do know it's very common. But also keep in mind, just because somebody was abused as a child does not mean they're going to be that way when they grow up. A very large percentage. That's why I'm careful with that because we don't know. We truly don't know. There's no way of knowing how many adults now were abused as a child because a large percentage never even tell. So considering we don't know, then it would be pretty much impossible to come up with even a good range of, well, how many child predators or what are the percentage of people that were abused as a kid become child predators? That's impossible to ever know because we have no clue the amount of people that were abused as a child. So, are there quite a few child predators that was abused as a child? Absolutely. But there's also quite a few that weren't. And also, we know a lot of children that were abused as a child don't grow up to be child predators. But I'm sure there. I mean, I've heard and there's some correlation there for sure. But I think we have to be careful with that. Well, Sienna, the things you're describing tell us if they're being nervous, which doesn't always correlate into being deceptive. But you are correct. Perspiration increases, eyes blinking faster, swallowing more. But just those things alone, that's going to show you somebody's nervous. But that does not always mean they're being deceptive. At the same time, you can be nervous and not be deceptive. So that all comes down to the timing. All right, if I ask you something, if we're talking about a certain thing and you start blinking faster or you start sweating, then I'm going to take note of that. And so then later on in that conversation, I'm going to go back and talk about that same thing in a different way and ask things in a different way, and then see if I see those same exact things. And if I continuously see those same things, those same reactions from you when talking about just that one thing, then I know, okay, they're not being honest with me about this. And then you got to dig into that. Does that make sense? He was asking when they sign, what gives them away other than verbal? I got you. Well, remember, communication, verbal is barely 10% of communication. There's it's a 50-40-10 percentages as far as communication is only 10%, and this is plus or minus 3 to 4%, but 10% is verbal, 50% is tone and inflection, and then 40% is body language. So verbal is literally the smallest part of communication. And that's why if you're having a serious conversation with someone about anything or a deep conversation, texting is the worst way to have that, because you're only getting a 10% communication link there. That's why it's never a good idea to have any kind of serious conversations, deep conversation, anything like that via text message or emails or something. You need to be sitting, you need to be sitting in front of them, because even on the phone, you're still missing at least 40% of the conversation, of the communication. So, and you will notice anyone that's ever spoken with me that we've talked about cases or whatever, I tell you, my preferred way of communication is I want us, if we can't meet in person, then we're going to meet via Skype, Zoom, Google Meet, something like that. And that's not because I need to tell if somebody's being deceptive to me. That's just the best way to have a conversation with someone, to communicate with them. So no matter what you're talking about, I want to be able to see you, hear you, and again, preferably in person. But I mean, through a screen is better, but still far from the best. I mean, in person is the best. And if I'm trying to determine if you're being honest with me, I've got to sit across from you, because even through a screen, I'm only seeing a little bit of your body. I mean, I can't read body language, most of it anyway, like that. But that's why. If you ever need to have a conversation with me, like if you're contacting me and we need to talk about something, really about anything, most of the time, I'm gonna tell you I want to at least, like I said, Zoom or Google Meet, something like that. Derek, what are your thoughts on a child predator that's 13 and their victim is 2? I don't know that you. I mean, I'm not going to call a 13-year-old a child predator as far as using that term. I completely see and understand what you're saying. That's out of my expertise, to be honest with you. There are people specifically trained to deal with children and interviewing them in regards to those things. And it's a completely different world, if you will. But I mean, I would guess that if a 13-year-old is doing that, then it definitely probably happened to them or is happening to them. Yes. But again, I'm not a expert in that, but yeah, I would bet they had it happen to them or actively having it done to them. So that's why, if that's ever happening, when that is happening and law enforcement steps in, they immediately understand that. And so they're going to speak to that 13-year-old as a victim as well, to try to figure out who's doing it to them or who did it to them, so they can move all that around. Most 13-year-olds know right from wrong. Well, the law disagrees with you. There's a big difference in knowing right from wrong and understanding consequences. But a 13-year-old could be completely trained and taught to do something that's completely wrong, and they not realize it's wrong. Does that make sense? So that's just it's a horrible thing to even have to think about, that happens, but it absolutely happens, unfortunately. But it would be very, very hard for me to believe that a kid in a good family home with no issues would do that. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't happened. It probably has, but I would bet that is extremely rare. I would bet most of the time they're going through the same thing, unfortunately. Why is that? Why does a victim do the same thing that was done to them? They know how it was done. Well, yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be a psychiatrist or psychologist. So that's a little deeper than my expertise goes. to give like an educated answer. I can't give you an educated answer on that. I just know it's very easy to manipulate children. It's very easy to teach them wrong. Like, I'll say that. So if again, if they're in a horrible house and mom or dad or both, whatever, is doing these things to them, then a 13-year-old may very well and probably does not understand that it's wrong. And that's going to be hard for us that have not been through those things to understand, because we can't put ourselves in that situation. We can't, it's impossible. So it's probably very hard for you to understand that, but that does happen. So again, I think there's a really good chance that a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, they do not realize it's wrong. That it may, if it's part of their normal life, their normal everyday life, then they probably think it's completely normal. And I mean, I've talked to victims that had things done to them when they were 10, 11, 12, 13. And some of them were in their mid-20s before they really started thinking about and realized, oh my God, that was not right. And that is exactly why it is so important for us to have these talks with our very young children, unfortunately. So if something does happen like that, that they know immediately, this is not right. This is not normal. Oh, and Nancy, hopefully this is something that the authorities are aware of and been investigated. If not, I mean, obviously you need to contact the authorities 100% immediately, ASAP. I'm guessing you're meaning it has, but yeah, I do want to be clear that if not, I mean, that's definitely something that needs to be reported immediately. But yeah, that's why, again, that goes back to, I understand we shouldn't have to, and it's horrible we do, but you have to have these conversations with your 5-year-old to an extent. Your 5-year-old needs to fully understand what is right and what is wrong in that realm. And if you are one of these high almighty Christians, because that seems to be, and I say that because that seems to be the ones that claim they're just all out Christians and in church every Sunday, that are so against young children being taught sex education. Okay, wait till they're 12. You're way too late. Way too late. And if you wait till they're 12 or 11, they've been taught it. They've been taught it by their schoolmates, by their classmates and friends. I would hope you would understand it would be way better for them to learn the right and wrong from you as a parent and not another 10-year-old, because you have no idea what that 10-year-old is living through in their home. And those things may be completely normal in that 10-year-old's home, and then they teach your child that, and then that's the first your child has learned about this stuff, you're too late. You see that? So you can act like it's unchristian to teach a small child sex education, which I completely disagree with, because you're teaching them that to protect them. But I see it all. I mean, we see it all the time. People lose their minds. If you want to take that chance, take that chance. There's no way in hell I am. My child's going to understand what's right and wrong in that realm. Haley said, yeah, they've been taught that nine times out of 10. Absolutely. But again, teach them the correct scientific words for these parts. That's what they should call them. That's what they're called. Explain to them that it's never no one is allowed to touch them if they don't want them to. And that if any time somebody's touching them that they're not comfortable with, they know how to verbally and physically stop that. These things are extremely important. And that's one thing that we get wrong, that we've been getting wrong for a long time, because forever we've been teaching our kids. Now, I mean, I don't mind, thankfully, but I was taught this growing up. When your 3-year-old doesn't want to hug grandpa or uncle or aunt or whatever, and we're like, go give them a hug, we force them to. That's teaching them the wrong thing. Now, I know you're completely innocent in doing that, and you don't realize that. That's why we're talking about it. Because you need to understand, you're teaching them the wrong thing. You teach them that, then when Uncle Joe is in a room by themselves with them, and they try to put their hands on them, they're going to be easily convinced into letting them do it because, well, mom and dad has been teaching me this. It must be okay. So if somebody wants to hug me, I have no say in it. They're allowed to hug me. That's where it all starts going wrong. So if your child doesn't want to go sit in Aunt Jennifer's lap, Uncle Joe's lap, don't force that. You can ask them. If they say no, okay. You don't force physical contact like that, because again, that's teaching them that it's okay, and it's not. If they're not comfortable, then they don't have to do it. They're in full charge of who touches them and who doesn't. And again, if this is something you wait till they're 10 years old to teach them, you're way too late. The teenagers will verbally teach you something you didn't know either. Absolutely. They're learning, trust me. I'm not sure why, but I was always so aware. I taught mine that no one touches you ever, and if they try, yell, scream, tell them no, and was always watchful, maybe too much, but you can't trust anyone. I trusted my mom. That was basically it. No, that's the way you got to be. I mean, you're going to have to trust some people. I get that, but you need to be very, very that process, you better be vetting them a lot on so many levels. And I don't think this is what you meant, Melissa, by you saying I taught mine that no one ever touches you. I don't think you meant that you literally taught them no one's ever allowed to touch you. Because I mean, you don't want to teach them that. Physical contact is okay if you know, hugs are okay with people. It's just if they don't want to, they need to understand they don't have to. So they need to understand that. Okay, I don't want to. I'm going to say no, and I'm not going to. And then y'all have heard me talk about this. This is a very big problem in the South. This is why the percentage of teenage girls that are raped in the South is so much higher than in the northern states. Why? Because in the South, we teach our daughters to be polite, not be rude. Well, you better teach your daughter to be rude. There is times they need to be rude. And that one of those times is if somebody's touching them or making them uncomfortable, they tell them physically and verbally, hey, get away from me. Do not touch me. They don't need to be worried about if they're being rude or not. Who gives a shit if they're rude? Stop teaching your daughters that they can never be rude. Stop. That's why it's such a bigger problem in the South. I mean, I know a lot of people that do these investigations every day, and I hear the same thing still right now. The amount of girls, teenage girls, that things end up happening, at college age, high school age, all the above. They end up having things done to them, and when they're asked, "Did you tell them no?" Well, no, I didn't want to be mean. Seriously, that happens all the time. And that goes back to, I mean, their parents taught them to not be rude. They have to understand. They need to know. They need to say no. They need to be very clear about it. And if they have to push somebody, if they have to punch them, whatever, do it. They're going to be put in uncomfortable situations. And they need to be taught how to get out of those uncomfortable situations. And not worry about hurting somebody's feelings. I hope my daughter's probably going to hurt a lot of people's feelings. Good. I was taught that way, and I wish I had more courage to speak up. No, and it's not your fault. It's the way you were taught. And that's what I'm saying. That's why we got to change that. And it is changing a little, but that we've got to change that whole culture of what we're teaching our children. We're more worried about them being rude than something happening to them that shouldn't. I was taught to not be rude and mean, and it backfired. You're exactly right, Gene. I mean, here's examples these people were telling you. So again, if you have children, make sure that and if you have been teaching them the other things, you can change that right now, and you need to change it right now and sit them down and say, look, you need to have those conversations with them. And again, the amount of Christian families, and I'm not hating on Christian. I mean, I'm a Christian. 100% proud of it. But it's mostly Christian families they don't teach their children sex education. They teach their children to be not be rude and to not hurt people's feelings. Jesus hurt a lot of people's feelings when he was on this earth. Y'all understand that, right? Again, he didn't spend his time sitting in a corner being quiet. When he was on this earth, he hurt a lot of people's feelings. That's okay. As long as you're telling the truth. If it hurts somebody's feelings, it hurts somebody's feelings. That's their fault. That's on them, not yours. If there ever was a book to be read, The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. I don't think I've read that. Check this out. I may have read it, but I don't think I have. It doesn't sound familiar. No, I've never read that. Survival Signals That Protect Us from Violence. I'm surprised I haven't. I will this weekend. And part of the child predator training, the predator proof course that I'll be putting out, there will be a list of books for parents, suggestions for parents to read, teachers to read, whatever, and books that are good suggestions for your teenager to read, depending on the age groups and things like that. It teaches on this subject and how we don't owe anyone's feelings anything. Oh, you're exactly right. Yeah, I'll be checking that out. That was a subject that wasn't taught to me. My mom especially shamed me for tons of stuff, but never taught me. Yep, and that's the problem. We and again, like I said, we see it in Christian families. They, for whatever reason, they think it's unchristian to teach your children sex education. Anything you teach your children that you're teaching them how to protect themselves is not unchristian. I don't know where we get that screwed up, but we do. And it's just it's a subject that in a lot of Christian homes are not allowed to be talked about at all, not allowed to be discussed. And those are usually the victims. Those are the ones that end up being the victims most of the time. It's a subject that needs to be discussed in your house a lot. A lot. Thank you for those gifts, Ashley. It was good to see you, Ashley. Should be required reading in schools. She's talking about the Gavin de Becker book. Sienna said, I'm sure some PTA would ban it. Now, we love banning books in schools. Love it. We love burning books. We'll burn a book. We'll ban them. And then wonder how certain horrible things in history happened. Well, they happened because we banned books and burn books. I'm telling you, and I don't care who disagrees with me. If you ever find yourself feeling the need to burn a book, you probably need to change the way you're thinking. If it's a book you don't want to read, don't read it. And there's very few books that I would ever agree that need to be just banned from schools. Very few. Most of the ones that we ban ask yourself, what knowledge is out there that you don't want your children learning? True knowledge. I can't really think of anything. I hope my kids have as much knowledge as possible. Well, that's what most books are about, knowledge. Maybe bad knowledge. I mean, there's tons of history books written on horrible events that we still need to read because we need to understand what happened, how it happened, why it happened, so we don't repeat it. But somehow we're in a society today that a lot of people think if it's something we don't agree with, we don't even need to read about it. No, you need to learn about it because it's going on. You need to learn about it. You need to understand what it is. I don't understand how we get that so screwed up. And if you think by your child reading a certain book is going to completely change their life for the wrong, then you probably need to think about how you're parenting. Because if reading one book can change them and turn them into the devil, you're not teaching them the right things. And trust me, there is not a book you could ever put in a school library that is worse than some of the conversations going on with very young children in schools. Not. We just want to pretend that it's not happening. We can pretend all day it's not happening. That doesn't make it go away. It's still happening. Do I think 50 Shades of Grey needs to be in elementary school libraries? How many elementary school kids could read a book like that? I mean, I've never read the book, but I imagine it's probably some pretty big words in it. But no, I mean, I'm not, of course, I'm not saying that you should read 50 Shades of Grey to your 5-year-old. I mean, I'm not saying that. Also, I mean, is this something that's happened somewhere? Like, has there been an elementary school put that book in the library? Or are we just what ifing? Because we can what if all day. Now, again, this goes back to what I was just saying. If you don't think your 13-year-old has heard way worse conversations in real life than what is in 50 Shades of Grey, you're living in a fantasy world. And I understand you're saying books need to be age appropriate. Conversations are not age appropriate, though. That's what I'm saying. Your child, there is no book that they could put in their library that is worse than the conversations going on in your child's classrooms between their classmates. And I don't care what school they go to. That's going to happen. Because bad home life doesn't discriminate. There's kids in horrible home lives that live in mansions, and there's ones that live in shacks. I mean, it doesn't discriminate. And but yeah, no, I mean, like I said, of course, I'm not saying that book should be in an elementary school, but I also don't want you to be fooled into thinking your very young child is not hearing even worse things from their classmates, because they are. That's why it's so important for us to sit down and have talks with them and make sure that they know, no matter what, they can be 100% open with us. And that's why I always go back. That is the most important thing. If you never listen to anything I say about things to teach your kids and how to parent, just listen to that one. If your child doesn't think that they can be 100% open with you no matter what, you're flirting with disaster. And that's where we have to be very careful and understand that we have to be very, very careful of, and I always go to this example because I've seen it happen so many times. A 14-year-old, and you're in a very strict Christian home, in a home where they're never allowed to talk about sex, ever. That's not a subject that's ever brought up, because, again, somehow we've made that devil talk. Anyway, in a very strict home, they're taught that it's very shameful to even talk about it. And they're told, you better never do this. You better never do that. That 14-year-old is a 14-year-old. They're going to do 14-year-old things sometimes. We hope they don't make these mistakes, but a lot of them do. And we have to understand that. And one of those mistakes is they're online, or they're texting with a classmate, and they make the mistake that you've told them over and over again not to do, and they send an inappropriate picture. And then, especially if it's online, who they sent that inappropriate picture to, even though has been pretending to be another 14-year-old, is a grown man. And now they have that picture. And now they will make your 14-year-old do horrible, horrible things because they're going to extort them. They're going to say, you're going to do this, or I'm going to send that picture, post that picture up everywhere. Your life's going to be ruined. Your family's going to hate you. Everybody's going to hate you. You're never going to have any friends. Your life's over. And they've been shamed so bad at home that they're like, I can't tell my parents about this, so I've just got to do what these people are telling me. Because if my parents find out about this, they're going to hate me. So I just need to keep on doing what these people are telling me to do, so my parents don't find out about that. So these people have talked so many kids into harming themselves. There's unfortunately events where they've talked them into taking their own lives. I mean, horrible things. Because the kid did not feel like they could be open with their parent. They were too scared. Now, if your child has been taught from day one, no matter what you ever do, listen, no matter what you ever do, I'm always going to love you. I don't care what it is. I'm always going to love you. There's going to be consequences to anything you do, but I'm always going to love you. Nothing's going to change that. And if you come to me, I'm going to do my job as a parent and fix that situation. There's nothing you could do that will ruin your life. Come to me. I'll fix it. Again, yeah, there will be consequences, but we'll get through that. Not a big deal. So if you taught your child that, and they did make the big mistake of sending that inappropriate picture, and then they're someone's trying to extort them, they know I need to go to mom and dad and tell them, because I don't know what to do now. I'm in a bad situation. And they come to you and they tell you what they did. And instead of you jumping up and slapping them upside the face and screaming at them and making them go to the room and just tell them how horrible they are, you look at them and say, thank you. And you did the right thing by telling me, and we're going to fix this. There's going to be consequences. And we'll go through those consequences. We'll discuss that once we get this problem fixed. But let's fix this problem. Then we'll come back to that. I love you, and you definitely shouldn't have done that, but we're going to fix this. And then you go and you fix the problem. And then they know for sure then, no matter what I do, my parents are going to do their job and help me. Now, if they continuously doing the same horrible thing, then that's a whole other problem. We're not talking about that. But most of the time, that's not going to happen if you treat them like that. Most of the time, they learn their lesson on that. They're going to make other mistakes. But again, the good part is they know they can always come to you, and you're going to fix that problem. And yes, there are going to be consequences. And it also goes back to one of my main things I always harp on. 16 and younger have absolutely no business whatsoever on social media. None. And that's one that always steps on some toes and hurts some people's feelings. And I hope it does. If that hurts your feelings, then good. Hopefully you change it. If they have a cell phone, it needs to be 100% monitored fully. Not you look through their cell phone every once in a while. That's not monitoring their cell phone. They're smarter than you. And that's another thing. The second that you start thinking you're smarter than your teenager, they're going to outsmart you. Same thing I teach law enforcement, especially rookies. The second you think you're smarter than that criminal, they're going to outsmart you. You need to understand, a lot of the criminals are way more intelligent than you. And the second you start thinking you're more intelligent, they're going to outsmart you. Same thing with your children. Don't ever think that they can't outsmart you, because they can. Stop being their friend and start being a parent. Yes. You can be their best friend when they're grown, not when they're adolescent. You're exactly right. You can still be a cool parent, but be a parent. I mean, I think I'm a cool parent. I don't think my son feels that way, but I think I am. I think I'm pretty cool. I would love to learn what to do and how to monitor their phones to your standards genuinely. Well, for one, that is a huge part of the course that I'll be putting out. But quickly to go over a few things, there again, with the phones, there are, and I always say this, I don't get paid by Bark, but Bark is one company, and the only reason I'm talking about it is because that's the one that we have. But there's a Bark phone, and we have the actual phone, but you don't have to actually buy the Bark phone. You can use any smartphone and download the Bark app, and it's Bark, B-A-R-K. And their app, from what I understand, can turn any phone, any smartphone into a Bark phone. But what that does, so it's what we have for my son. He doesn't have a cell phone, but there are times he goes to friends' houses or whatever. He's going somewhere and he needs a phone to call up, to be able to call us if he needs us, or say, hey, come pick me up, whatever. And so we have the Bark phone for that. And what that does is we can completely control who's allowed to text that phone and call that phone, and who that phone is allowed to text or call. So we program the only numbers that phone is able to text or call, and the only numbers that phone is able to receive text and calls from. So that's number one. And then also, every single text and call that goes to that phone also comes to my phone in real time. So if he gets a text on that phone, it pops up on mine too, and I can read the exact text going out and in. Same thing with phone calls. And then if there's internet access on there, which most of the time they don't need internet access on their phones, but if there are times they do or whatever, again, with that, I can monitor everything, and it'll tell me, it will alert me in real time that phone just went on Snapchat. And I'm going to say, whoa, okay, this is a big problem. So it's really that easy. And those apps are out there. And we looked, how much was the Bark app? It was like $50 or something. I don't know. It's not expensive. I think the phone was like $200 or $250 or something, but it's a nice smartphone. But again, you don't have to have that. And again, there's more than just Bark. I'm sure there are other companies out there that do the same thing. I know exactly how Bark is, but you can find those. But again, I'm a big proponent of Bark. I like it. I've heard a lot of other experts in this field specifically referred Bark as well, but I think they get paid by them, so that's understandable. But your 14-year-old doesn't have any privacy. None. And if you think they deserve privacy like that, you're flirting with disaster. I was 14. I was 15. I was 16 once. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents had no clue the things I was doing. My grandma literally would tell people that I've never cussed, that I've never drank, that nothing. And she always thought I was like this perfect kid. Now, I wasn't horrible by any means, but I was drinking whiskey at 16 at parties on the weekends. I wasn't doing a lot. I mean, I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, obviously. They didn't know that. My point is, don't trust your 14-year-old. You are crazy if you trust your 14-year-old. Crazy. How to get tips to me, agentdbaker.com is my website. Go to agentdbaker.com and you'll see a contact link on there. Click the contact button, fill in a little bit of information, and it comes straight to me. Very simple. And anything you ever send me, any conversations we ever have are completely confidential. I will never, ever repeat your name to anyone unless there's a reason you want me to or something like that. But I will never, nobody will ever know that you ever talked to me or whatever information you gave me. Plus, I will never put out any information that would point to you, such as I'll never, if you tell me information, like in regards to a case or something, I will never put out information that somebody would be able to say, well, I know exactly who told him that. Those kind of things. I'm very careful with that. But yeah, agentdbaker.com. Hear from Anthony Clark video, and I have some interesting stuff to contribute about others there. Oh, absolutely. Hannah, please contact me. Please. Hey, good night, Rhonda. But yeah, Rhonda, and if you have any other questions, just message me. But I'm hoping to get I'm working on the course, and I'm hoping to get it out very, very soon. I'm very excited about it. Our computers were kept in the dining room that we all walked through to the kitchen, not allowed in the bedrooms. Yeah, that's a very good rule. And I struggle with it. Look, I'm not the perfect parent. I wish I was. It's way easier for me to tell you how to parent than for me to actually implement it myself at times too. I mean, obviously there's certain things I'm very strict on, phones, things like that, social media. But like there'll be times where my son knows he is not allowed to take his iPad to his room. He knows that. There'll be times he does, and then I'll see it or I'll find out, and I'll just be like, hey, I told you. So let me catch you doing that again. Versus my wife comes to me and she's like, I went to wake him up this morning. His iPad was in there. You need to have a good talk with him. And so thankfully, I have her to keep me on that true parenting side, because it's just, I hate to have those I hate to have those conversations with them because it's not fun, obviously, but I need to be a parent. And she keeps me in check with that, thankfully. And so when I find out that he took his iPad to his room that night, well, then he loses it for the next 2 weeks or week, whatever. No question about it. But yeah, phone. If your teenager does have a cell phone, yeah, they know that you should not allow them to have that in their rooms by themselves. Nothing good. A teenager with unfiltered internet in their bedroom by themselves is the worst possible thing I could ever think of for your teenager. I'm so old, I didn't have to worry about that when I was 14. Some people had computers, but it was not every house had a computer by any means, and the internet we had was dial up, so it took you forever. I didn't get a computer in my room in my house till, I had it in my room, but I didn't get a computer in my room till I was like in 11th grade, and there wasn't much you could do on it. Then we had the little chat thing, but I didn't have any. Most of my friends didn't have it, so just not something we used. But thank God, because my grandparents were not that strict on me, because I'd never gotten like bad trouble. As far as, I never did bad things like that would get me in legal trouble or anything. And so they just let me do whatever. But thankfully, my God, if I would have had internet like we have today, and a computer or an iPad or a cell phone, there's no telling what I would have gotten myself into, because I was dumb. And I had a cell phone, like I had cell phones, but texting was the little. I tried to explain this to my son the other day of how texting used to be, and I found it hard to actually explain it, but it wasn't texting like it took you 10 minutes to write a sentence, to text a sentence, because you had to click on the number, and then it would take you to the letter, and it would be like number one was ABC, and so you'd have to click number one. If you wanted to put a C, you'd have to click number one 3 times to get to the C, and then it took you you wasn't texting much. Uh, yeah, Chaos on TikTok brings up a good point. Oh, there's another. She says, I have 3 young adults and 1 teen. Everyone trust me, please. When you take the devices, shut them. I'm guessing she's trying to say shut them off. Oh, yeah, shut them off. The Wi-Fi, too. They have other devices they get from Prince. And that is a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up, because that does happen a lot. They'll have a friend hey, I need to text my boyfriend tonight. Can I use your cell phone for the next day or something? Can I take your cell phone home? And then they do it. She's exactly right. Or, yeah, their friend will have an old iPhone because they just got the new one. They'll give them the old one, and so Wi-Fi works on it. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Any old device, it's just a computer on Wi-Fi. Apps can be downloaded to chat or get social media on. Absolutely. But that goes back to your 14-year-old, your 15-year-old, they don't get any privacy. You're letting them, that's your job as a parent, to not let them make those dumb mistakes. And part of that is they don't have any privacy. Search their rooms. Now, you don't have to be like a drill sergeant and go in there and toss their room all up. I'm not saying that. But make sure they understand you're going to be looking through their room often, unannounced. And when you look through it, you need to look through it. Anywhere they could hide something, look. And then, other than that, you just got to be observant. Pay attention to your kids. You got to be observant. But I've told y'all, I've ran search warrants on houses before on a 16-year-old that was selling rugs out of his bedroom in a nice house. And his parents have no idea. They have no clue nothing's going on. Next thing they know, we're busting their door in at 5 a.m., pointing our weapons at their face in their bed. And they're like, what in the world is going on? Like, well, you have a rug dealer in your house. And then we take them into their bedroom and we show them everything. Like, I had no idea. Like, how have you never looked through their room? You've never looked through their closet? Well, no, I mean, they deserve their privacy. Okay. That's why we're here, because you thought your kid deserved their privacy. That's why we've just kicked in your door. I'm telling you, I've had that conversation more times than I could ever wish. And the parents truly had no idea, just because again, they thought their child deserved privacy. No, they don't. My my third son got pics in the 6th grade. Yes. And that's what I'm telling people. There's not an age too young to teach them how bad these things are. And guess what? When your 6th grader has a picture like that on their phone, they're in possession of child P. Yep. Literally. If your 14-year-old daughter takes a picture of herself, even if she doesn't send it to anybody and it's on her phone, guess what? She's in possession of child P and can be charged with that. And I've heard it come out of the parents' mouths. Well, how's that my fault? Because it's your job to be their parent. It's your job to monitor what they do. It's your job to know. Just like the excuse when I've pulled somebody over in a car and there's been something illegal in there, and they let their buddy drive it the day before, and they say, how's it my fault? How am I responsible? Because you're responsible for everything that's in your car. You need to know everything's in your car. Yes, that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to know what your child is doing. We have to start taking accountability for that as parents. Now, are there certain things your child can get away with, and there's just no way of you knowing that until it's too late? Yes. Again, they're smart. But if we can truthfully and honestly say we did everything we could possibly do to prevent it, and then it still happened, nobody's going to fault you for that. I've never seen that situation, though. I've never been in that situation with a parent to where I looked at them and said, you know what? You did everything you're supposed to do, and you're doing it right, and they still did it. I've never been in that situation. Every single time I have been in that situation, it's almost everything we've talked about tonight, the parent did the opposite. And I've seen them, I've standing across from me with tears in their eyes go, I wish I would have known this stuff sooner. I wish I'd have thought about this stuff sooner. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about this so often. Yes, and chaos, and I've talked about this, and this is in the course. We talk about, we go into detail about a lot of these things. The hidden apps. She says also research the hidden apps like calculator. I've got some of these apps on my phone to show people. I used to have the calculator when I don't think I have it anymore. But what she's talking about, there can be. Let me say, I've gotten a new phone since, so I don't. Yeah, I don't have it anymore. But there's I don't think you see my phone, but the normal iPhone calculator app, you can click on it, and the hidden app looks exactly like that. There's no difference. You click on it, it's a calculator, you can use it as a calculator, but there's a hidden app one where I could type in a code Like, go on the calculator and type in a special code, like a 4-number code or something, and it would open up a secret app where you could store pictures, text messages, anything. It's almost impossible for somebody to find unless it's law enforcement that's fully downloaded your phone. But you need to be aware of those things. And that goes back to what I'm telling you. They are smart. And don't underestimate them. Chaos has got this down pat. Seriously, you're bringing up some really good points. I appreciate that. You know what you're talking about. I may need to get you you need to be a guest on the podcast. I only found it because my son was stupid enough to have it next to the regular calculator, or I wouldn't have found it. Yeah, it wasn't the smartest on their part, but thankfully you did find it. But yeah, if they're smart about it, again, it's impossible to tell. I mean it is. And even if you think it's not something that you can, if you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to check and see if my kid's calculator app is the fake one. Unless you know the code to put in, you're not going to know. Because you've got to put in that specific code for it to open up and for you to see it's the fake one. Because it works as a normal calculator. I mean, everything's exactly the same. And it's not. There's some apps I'm not going to tell because I don't want bad people knowing that they exist. But there are a lot of these secret apps like that and things that your kids learn about. I mean, some of them are crazy that you would never, and again, a lot of them are pretty much impossible for you to find on your kid's phone unless you have like the Bark app or something like that, where every single thing that's ever app's downloaded on that phone, you're notified. I mean, everything that goes on that phone, you're notified. That's the only way. Also got locked out of my son's phone while holding it by my nephew who activated crash detection from another house. I don't know that I'm familiar with what you're talking about there. Oh, okay. You think it was an SOS that I had his phone lock her out? Okay, yeah. I got you. And see, the thing is, Chaos was being very observant and figured out these things. There's no telling how many parents that their kids are doing the exact same thing their kids were doing, and they just never realized it. I was at my cousin's house, I don't know, within the last 2 years or year, and we were having some similar discussions about things, and they have a 15-year-old, and they're like, "Oh yeah, nah, he's never," or it was a she. She's never done that, or yeah, she knows about that and everything. And I just started smiling, and they're like, "What? Like you don't believe that?" I said, no, I don't, just because I know how kids are or whatever. And so anyway, unfortunately, I was right. It wasn't horrible stuff by any means, but it was just sneaky things like that. And I had her bring her phone in there, and within 5 minutes, I was showing them things that they had no clue about. They could not believe it. Young kids don't need a phone. Yeah, and that's the number one thing. But also, like Chaos said it earlier, also keep in mind they have ways of getting phones that you don't even know they have. iPads, phones, whatever. But don't be, and I hate to pick on them, but I'm joking. I don't hate to pick on them, but Nick Smith's, Walker County Sheriff Nick Smith's daughter, what was she, 12? Then her mom say she's 12 and she's on social media. Yeah. That is horrible parenting. Horrible parenting on so many levels. There is absolutely nothing good. Listen to me. Absolutely nothing good ever that will come out of your 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever, having social media. Not one good thing will ever come out of that. But I promise you some bad things will. I think Chaos's kids were a lot like me when I was growing up. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, and know who your kids' friends are. And know them. You need to be involved in your child's life. Know who their friends are. And trust me when I tell you, and this goes for adults, kids, whoever. This goes for you right now. If you show me the closest 5 people to you, your 5 closest friends, the 5 people that you spend the most time with, you're going to be just like them. There is no way around that. No, listen to me. There is no way around that. Now, that can be a good thing, but obviously it can be a bad thing. That's why, even as adults, at my age, I need to be very careful about who I surround myself with. That's why I always want to surround myself with people that, number one, are smarter than me. I don't want to ever be the smartest person in the room. That's a bad room if I'm the smartest person in there, number one. I want to surround myself with people that are more intelligent than me, that are, in my mind, in my opinion of what success is, more successful than me, and have things that I want. And if I do, I will eventually be just like them. Again, there's no way around that. If you want to be a millionaire, surround yourself by 5 millionaires. I promise you, without a doubt, you will end up being a millionaire. 100% proven. If you want to get addicted to rugs, surround yourself with 5 people that are using rugs. You'll be on them. There are no exceptions to that. I'm telling you, that rule, there are no exceptions to that. And you need to understand that for your children too. It is very important for your children to who they hang around with. And if they're hanging around, if their closest friends are not doing good, are doing really bad things, you better get your kid away from them. It's very important. I don't care who, I don't care if that's their first cousins, whatever. You better get your kid away from them because they're going to be just like them. And if you can't tell me who your kid's 5 closest friends are, you need to change that too. You need to change that ASAP. Who has 5 friends? Got at most 3 real friends. The rest are acquaintances. Well, and no, I mean, you make a good point. But you are around 3 to 5 people in your life. One's going to be your spouse because that counts. The other may be your brother, your sister, and then you may have a couple friends. But those 5 people, if you don't know the 5 closest people to you, you need to write that down, seriously. And a lot of people don't. It's not uncommon if you don't. This is when I was doing like life coaching, this is one of the first things, or business coaching, it's one of the first things I would do. I would have people do. Okay, let's go over the 5 closest people to you. And a lot of people don't know exactly. And so you have them write it down and then figure it out. And then you go through and you analyze those 5 people. And you go, okay, might need to spend a lot less time around this person. Like, it's completely okay for you to conversate with them, have lunch with them sometimes, whatever. But it's not something you want. It's not someone you want to spend every day around. So you need to analyze each one of those. And again, if there's a certain way you want to be, if whatever your idea in your head of success is, find those 5 people. And that is, a lot of people make fun of like coaches, like career coaches, whatever you want to call them, business coaches, life coaches, whatever. A lot of people make fun of that. But it's very important. I've had a coach, mentor, whatever you want to call it, for a good 6 or 7 years now. And, well, full transparency, honestly, up until about 3 or 4 months ago. And I've kind of fallen away because I've been so busy, and I can tell it. I've got to get back to that. Everyone needs a coach. Again, did Michael Jordan have a coach? Yes. 100%. Actually, he had numerous ones. Kobe Bryant surrounded himself by coaches. Literally. He was Kobe Bryant was very methodical in who he surrounded himself with. And he would pick an expert in different categories, and that's who he surrounded himself with. He was very methodical about it. But not only did Kobe Bryant have a basketball coach, he had other coaches in his life, literally. He had people he paid to coach him in life. Michael Jordan, I guarantee you he still does. I guarantee you that. When Michael Jordan was playing basketball, he was the best in the world. But he still had a basketball coach. And he still practiced every single day. You need to realize your true life needs to be the same way. And if you're going through life without a coach like that, you're going to end up on the bad side of things a lot. And it's always the people who make fun of, again, when they, now, please understand, you got to be very careful about who your coach is, your coach is. You very careful. Just because somebody's got a fancy looking website or something doesn't mean that's who needs to be your coach and are qualified. You need to be very careful of who you select. But I'm telling you, you need that person in your life. You need that person that will coach you, that when you need that advice that you go to. It's very important. And if you have the money, trust me, it's worth every penny. And again, it was always the people, the ones that were making fun of that. I never had somebody that was making fun of that I would look and go, I wish I had their, like, man, they're successful. I want to be more like them. Never once. There was always people who would be like, I'm glad I'm nothing like you. And understand, a good coach is not it's not cheap. But it's very important. Again, if it's something you can afford, you need to look into that for sure. Well, Cal, you probably wouldn't like being in my home. As far as the cussing, now talking filthy, that depends on what if you're talking about inappropriate things, then yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. I don't know. Me and my wife just don't see an issue with these made up curse words that people made up. Just arbitrarily throwing words around and saying, oh, we shouldn't say that. Okay, whatever. And that's my kids are taught that. My kids are allowed, we call them home words. They know they're only allowed to use those words at home. And trust me, I'm not talking about horrible words or anything. I'm talking about like shit, damn, whatever. They understand they're not allowed to use them in school and all that stuff. But the thing is, we've always been like that with my son, and he has never said I've never heard him say a curse word anyway. Never. I mean, I'm not going to say he's never said one, but he's never said one in front of us, and we wouldn't care if he did, but he just doesn't. No, I know what you mean, Chaos. No, I know what you mean. But yeah, the people you surround yourself with are extremely important, and again, extremely important for your children too. So That's everybody's homework for this weekend. Write down who the 5 closest people to you are. Also, write down and find out who the 5 closest people to your child is. And talk to your child about those. And don't go at it with acting like an investigator. Sit and have a normal conversation with them. If you don't understand how to elicit information from people, that means getting information from somebody when they don't realize you're getting information from them. That means asking them questions without asking them a literal question. That's the way you want to do it. That's the way anybody will be more open and honest with you, because they won't be on guard, especially your children. It works very well on your children. Ask your children questions without asking them a question. An example of that is, instead of saying, "What'd you learn in school today?" you could say, "Well, at work today, I learned this." And if you are sitting there having a conversation, you say that, then there's a decent chance they're going to say, "When I was in school today, I learned this." Boom. You just elicited that information from them. That's a very elementary example, but I think you get the point. Like, if you want to know what somebody does for a living, say you're sitting in an airplane with them and you just sat down and you want to know what they do for a living, instead of just looking at them and saying, "What kind of work do you do?" or "Where do you work?" which is always going to throw somebody off, throw people on guard and just kind of, "Why are you asking me questions?" Whatever. Say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Derek. Yeah, I'm headed to Denver for a conference. I'm a podcaster." They're going to then tell you what they do for a living. That's eliciting information. Very good tool. And again, works very well on kids. Because if you just straight up ask your children certain questions, they're going to be on guard. They're not going to want to answer it. Whatever. Or they're not going to be honest about their answer. But if you elicit it from them, they don't even realize they're telling you. Practice that. Start practicing that on everybody. Because it takes a lot of practice to get really good at it, but you can get good at it. But I like that, Debbie. Debbie said, "My granddaughter that lives with me, her friends are here a lot. I know them and they love to come chat." You can learn a lot from just listening. Yeah, and that's a very important tool. Shut your mouth and listen. We tell our kids that all the time. We need to do that too. I mean, that's the way you learn. Oh, it sounds funny from somebody that's sitting up here for the last 3 hours just talking. Any insight on the Blountsville police chief? Yeah, I've done a podcast, a whole podcast on that, but it's not going to be coming out till sometime next week, but it will be coming out next week. But yeah, you're not going to learn anything by talking. You got to listen. That's what most police officers get wrong, especially when they're interviewing or interrogating somebody. They sit there and talk and if you're interviewing someone or interrogating them and you're talking more than they are, you're doing horrible at what you're doing. Literally, that needs to be a 10, what I call a 10-90 split. You should be talking 10% or less, and they should be talking 90% or more. And if you do that, you did a good interview. I promise you. If you didn't do a good interview. You got to shut up and listen. Let them talk. What about a 17-year-old son that refuses to talk to me at all? Now, don't misunderstand. I am not a psychiatrist in any way whatsoever. That's for sure. I will say that I don't think that's uncommon. But it'd probably be something that I would always suggest talking to a professional, seriously, a therapist, for sure. And that's something nobody should be ashamed of either. That's another thing that I'm proud of. I mean, for a lot of my law enforcement career, I talked to a therapist at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. Something else I've kind of fallen off of since I've gotten so busy with this, but I got to get back into that too, at least once a week. But for years, once or twice a week, you need that person. Everybody does. But all right, but yeah, we've been going for 3 hours. I'm gonna call it a night. Hey, I appreciate each and every one of you for being on here. I really do. It means a lot to me. I can't do any of this by myself. I need all of you all to spread awareness to the things we discuss, whether it be teaching you how to make your children hard targets for child predators or bringing awareness to corruption, whatever the case may be. I appreciate each and every one of you. You're all the reason that we're able to do that. And again, the Aaron Spencer, and please understand, I'm not taking credit for that. A lot of very large creators were on that, and his defense team. A lot of people made noise about that, but that's the Aaron Spencer case is a prime example of what we do. It does help. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. We've seen it. I truly think that we played a big part in the Walker County, Alabama sheriff not getting reelected. I truly think we did. There's no doubt in my mind. Those are just a few examples, but we're doing good things for the most part. It's very important. That's why I enjoy this so much. I spent 17 years in law enforcement. I feel like I'm making way bigger of a difference in this world than I did my entire time in law enforcement. Maybe I'm not, but I feel like I am. But I appreciate each and every one of you for y'all watching and following and subscribing, liking my videos and podcast and listening to them all the way through, commenting. All those things get them pushed out to the main pages and helps bring awareness to those things. So I really appreciate all of that. I definitely appreciate my team, and I hope they know how much I appreciate them, because I definitely could not do any of this without them. They are amazing, even though they're mainly behind the scenes, but they do a lot of crazy, great work, tons of work for me, and I really appreciate that. And If you have not checked out the new website, it's up and going. Make sure to go check that out, agentdbaker.com, agentdbaker.com. Go check that out. Give it a look. You'll see I think there's 3 courses that we have listed on there that they just say coming soon, but those are the 3 that we're going to be putting out first. The very first one will be the what we're calling Predator Proof, which is the child predator course, teaching parents, teachers, law enforcement, all the above, how to make their children and children hard targets, and how to help protect their children from child predators. So, and again, we're going to try to get that out as soon as possible. But go check out the website. Let me know what you think. And also, if you need to contact me, the website is the way to do that. Go click the contact button. It's a big green button in the top right, or you can go down to the bottom of the page and fill out the thing. But either way, it takes you to the same. Put your name, email address, and your message, and it comes straight to me. Nobody else sees that. Those all come straight to me, and then I filter through those. If it's information I need to get to my research team and investigative team, things like that, I send the information, but they don't know the names of the stuff it comes from. I'm very careful about that. But yeah, make sure you go check that out. Let me know what you think. And if you're not following me, please hit the follow button or subscribe. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do that. Agent D Baker. Again, you can just go to YouTube, type in Agent D Baker to take you to my channel, or you can go to agentdbaker.com, my website, and click the YouTube link there, and it'll take you to my channel. But make sure you go and actually subscribe to my channel. We're trying to build that up. And also, that's one place you can find my full podcast. You can find my full podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. And then also, my Wednesday night lives from now on will only be on YouTube. So Mondays and Fridays will still be on all platforms, but Wednesday nights will just be on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribing so you can catch the Wednesday night lives. And we had a really good one this last Wednesday, and I've got some really big things planned for those, so I'm looking forward to that. But appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a good rest of your Friday night or Saturday morning, however you want to put it, and a good weekend. Welcome to Truth Recon. I'm Agent D Baker, former narcotics detective, SWAT team member, and U.S. Navy combat veteran. With years of real-world experience in high-stakes environments, I've seen firsthand the dangers that lurk both in our communities and now increasingly online. Before this show begins, understand this. What you are about to hear may be disturbing to some audiences. This podcast contains explicit language, dark themes, and real conversations that are not suitable for children and may be triggering for some individuals. If you choose to continue, do so knowing this content is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.